Hello everyone, you are watching a snippet of Countdown April 17, 2023. Today is Monday. Bonus story Gulag grew stronger. About today's sentence to Vladimir Karamurza. Look at Daily Motion. And the full version of the program is on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. And now about the main thing. The less success in the Ukrainian direction, the higher the level of nervousness around the Kremlin. On Friday evening, April 14th, an article by Yevgeny Prigozhin appeared, in which the owner of PMC Wagner proposed to complete the so-called SVO. For the authorities and for society as a whole, today it is necessary to put some sort of bullet point in the SVO, wrote Prigozhin. The ideal option is to announce the end of the NWO, to inform everyone that Russia has achieved the results that it planned, and in a sense we have really achieved them. In the event of an announcement of the end of the military operation, Russia will only have to tightly gain a foothold, claw in those territories that already exist, Prigozhin broadcasts, warning that for Russia there is always a risk that after the start of a counteroffensive, the situation at the front may worsen. Such a statement could not be made emotionally. It was thought out and weighed, given the possible accusations of betrayal and defeatism. That is why the phrase about the impossibility of agreements was inserted. On the one hand, Prigozhin is well aware of the true state of affairs, the capabilities of the rashist units and the prospects for the development of events in Ukraine. On the other hand, he is not suicidal to make such statements alone. This means that in certain circles around the Kremlin, moods are being formed and intensified to complete this adventure. There is also an understanding that if you do not turn into doves of peace now, it will be too late tomorrow, and the boomerang of war will return with such overwhelming force that it will kill everyone to hell. Prigozhin is not a fool to sling on the system alone, especially since his convict composition is about to be exterminated in Ukraine soon. In all likelihood, he voices the opinion of a very large circle of people, which expands as awareness of the impending defeat. It was the voice of the lowering convict that was chosen as a repeater of the idea of completing the SVO. Say, even the last lowered S already understands the further futility of this war. Once again, they plan to report on the capture of Bakhmut by Easter, but the cake failed. The losses are colossal, but there is no sense. But Putin's response, in the form of a law on the digitalization of military records, which actually introduces martial law in the country without declaring one, crushes all the arguments of dreamers into dust. There will be no end to the NWO, and no losses will stop it. He will take all of Ukraine, one way or another. Friday's Pacific ass shaking is yet another sign to the West that the postulate a nuclear power cannot lose is basic and cannot be challenged. Even buzzer radio stations on the frequencies of the Ministry of Defense transmit endless ciphers in the open air. The Kremlin demonstrates a serious readiness to use nuclear weapons in the event of a danger prescribed in the nuclear doctrine. And this is Crimea. Its loss will be perceived as a threat to the state itself, which will become a legal basis for the Kremlin in the issue of the use of nuclear weapons. The visit of the Minister of Defense of China, instantly accepted by Putin, should show the whole world the degree of mutual readiness for militaristic ecstasy. Beijing has Taiwan, Moscow has Ukraine. The Russian Federation can use the fleet in any conflicts and directions, Putin says, jumping out of his pants and as if assuring the Chinese comrades that we are in the same boat, don't worry. And now Trump is scaring his electorate with the unification of Russia and China. High-level agents rebroadcast Kremlin horror stories. But inside the cave itself, the elites tremble like jelly. They are not enthusiastic about the nuclear scenario, which denotes a restless leader. Meeting today with Shoigu, Putin demands to shake the nuclear muddy more and more actively. The tasks of developing the fleet, including in the Pacific theater, have not been cancelled or removed, so I ask you to continue this work, of course, to pay attention also to the development and preparation of similar events in other fleets. End of quote. This means that the ass shaking will only intensify. The closer the start of the counteroffensive of the armed forces of Ukraine, the more determined Putin is to go for broke. But the prospect of a nuclear paradise is not in the plans of the elites, who are thinking about how to get the frozen assets back immediately after the end of the war more painlessly. For example, the lawyers of the European Commission came to the conclusion that the frozen funds of the Bank of Russia and other assets cannot be withdrawn and transferred to the disposal of Ukraine. This means that it is time to end the war if the Russian moneybags want to quickly regain what is now beyond their reach. The spiritual and financial factor is a serious argument that can further split Putin's entourage. It's one thing to be a dwarf geopolitician, and quite another to be a holy loot. By the way, Prigozhin's initiative has already run into opposition from agents of influence in Europe. Agent Osechkin promised to publish something shocking about Putin's chef, as if some touches to the portrait of the cannibal can still shock someone. These ugly antics of the special hype fueler once again confirm the assumption that the closer the aggravation in the Ukrainian direction is, the more actively rat paws and tails will fly out from under the Kremlin carpet, as harbingers of the final fight directly in the bunker itself. Become our patrons now and see further in this program. Last night, Ukrainian drones attacked 2 electrical substations in the Belgorod region, and Belgorod itself is already officially preparing for the return of the boomerang of war. Putin's meeting with Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu was another confirmation of Moscow's forced rapprochement with Beijing. Putin has no other choice. He lies under the soft panda, risking being crushed. Soon it will be possible to sit in the cave not only for fakes about the army, Putin or military commissar Petrovich. The passport itself turns into an object of heart-rending protection from the state. Burned the passport, sat down for a year. Such an amendment to the legislation was made by restless deputies of the Liberal Democratic Party. The Putin court found Vladimir Kara-Murza guilty of treason and other charges and sentenced him to 25 years in prison. Putinism organically inherited Stalin's methods, about which the marginal public, recognized by Infantiles as Diemscheiße, has long been warned. See the plot of the Gulag Grew Stronger on the Daily Motion resource. And that is all. See the full version of the program on the Patreon resource. And thanks to everyone who is becoming our patrons right now. Hugs to everyone. See you on Thursday. Glory to Ukraine.